Hey, check this out. There is a huge community on YouTube, a storyteller community. They tell other people's stories. You know what stories I enjoy the most? And I've been listening to these stories since 2015. I enjoy stories about the forest, the woods, hikings, people getting lost in the forest, creepy, unexplainable encounters while camping or hiking. I really enjoy those stories about the Appalachian trails. Anything about Appalachia, I enjoy listening to them. That's just me. And you know what I noticed? I have never heard or recall hearing stories about the hidden community of Black people in the Appalachian Mountains. I'll be back. Hey, welcome everybody. Let's jump into this. When I discovered this article, I basically was looking for anything that had to do with Appalachia and the history of Appalachia and the history of the Appalachian Mountains pertaining to Black folks. And this article, actually was several articles that came up, and I'm not surprised. What I'm not surprised is Black folks live there and probably still live there, of course, and that it's not really talked about. When you hear about the Appalachian Mountains, the first images that come to your mind are poor white people. That's basically who they talk about. When you talk about those mountains, it's just poor white folks. And they leave everybody else out, you know? So, like I said, when I heard stories about Appalachia, whether they were creepy stories or just someone talking about their experience on the Appalachian trails while hiking, you never hear about any other group of people but white people. So there is evidence that Black people were all around this country prior to slavery and after slavery, but they're not talked about. And it's by design. But let's go on to into this content. Black folks have built resilient spaces for themselves in the U.S. mountain. Did you know that there was a hidden utopia of formerly enslaved people located in the mountains of Appalachia? Okay, before I continue on with the history of Black people in Appalachian Mountains, I want to speak briefly about this former slave who created a community for free enslaved folks after the Civil War. And you know, it got disgustingly brutal and horrific for free slaves after the Civil War. And you know who did it. Okay. A short distance away from the town of Buena Vista in central Virginia, where the Appalachian Trail passes through a fairly narrow valley, the land around Brown Mountain Creek was home to families, cabins, animals, and fields of crops. A hollow with a history of slavery as well as freedom for Black Americans after the Civil War. It was treacherous after the Civil War. And what's amazing to me is how many people want to keep denying that the Civil War had to do with slavery. One side wanted slavery to continue. The other side was supposedly, abolishing it. Let's go on. In antebellum Elmers County, Jesse Richardson owned 217. I wonder if they missed left out slaves. On 217 slaves, a plantation of 2,000 acres formed by slave labor producing corn and tobacco. His property included part of Brown Mountain Creek. He had a son, Moses, by one of his slaves. Moses was a slave but was allowed to work in a mill owned by his father to earn money. It was through this circumstance that Moses had the resources to purchase 220 acres of property at Brown Mountain Creek 3 years after the war. That purchase made him one of the few formerly enslaved individuals in Appalachia to own land. Furthermore, as his wealth increased, he became one of the largest landowners in the area. He and his sons eventually acquired about 700 acres. Where's all that land, folks? Moses' richest son rented property and cabins to other former slaves who sharecropped the land. At least 11 families lived in this community of formerly enslaved people at the turn of the 20th century. Residents grew tobacco, corn, oats, and wheat on the terrace slopes. They collected persimmons, apples, and chestnuts from the trees. A former resident, Taft Hughes, said his family raised chickens, kept a team of horses to use on the fields, and had one cow to milk. A grist mill owned and operated in the village around grain and corn. Higher on the hill was the community cemetery. A walk along the AT passes hidden clues of those who lived and worked here. The stories of the past are obscured by the thick canopy of reinforced woodlands and the slowly diminishing evidence of their homes and barns. However, a careful look reveals rock walls and foundations, and I would like to know, why is so much of our history hidden from us? Why did you guys frame the picture to look like only poor white people lived in the Appalachian Mountains? Why did you intentionally leave out the history of black people living in those mountains? Why do you make it seem like only black folk, only white people can go to those mountains? Or is it that that's how you want us to feel? Don't go there, because there's a lot of redneck, trash white folks that crazy up in them mountains. Yeah, you want us to not claim our history. Okay. All right, let's get on with it. Let me continue talking about the history of the Appalachian Mountains with black folks. If you ever stood atop a mountain ridge overlooking the plentiful treescapes of Appalachian wilderness, a mountain on the west coast, their height alone makes one ponder the existence of a higher power. These gorgeous mountain ranges, that is Appalachia, hold remarkable untold history of Black America. So it is so much history that has been hidden from us or just overlooked. In addition to being filled with wide arrays of resilient plants and animals, this region is also home to a lesser known diversity, one that is often overshadowed by the narrative of Appalachia as a community of poor white mountaineers. You always hear about poor whites who went to that part of this country and built a life for themselves, but like I said, you never hear about the black folks. You hear about them coming from other countries like Ireland and Germany. But I keep telling y'all, the majority of people they put in bondage with chains came from this land. And that's why they want you to believe you came primarily from Africa, because they don't want you to lay claim to this land. As long as you keep thinking that you weren't here prior to them coming here, you're not claiming something that's yours. There's proof that we were here before they even knew this country existed. So that's why it's baffling to me when you hear these people, particularly racist, like, it's our country. Okay. That's just like going to somebody's house, taking their shoes and saying it's mine. How the hell are these shoes mine when they were in this person's house? Let's go on. Oh my God. Oftentimes in Appalachia, poor white, Scottish, Irish populations settled closely with free black and indigenous populations, a relationship which gave rise to Appalachia's Mulongian multiracial communities. The most notable instance of this multiracial cohabitation took place during the Civil War, as many residents in now West Virginia split off from Virginia when the state seceded from the Union. These regions served as an active path on the Underground Railroad running into northern Tennessee to Pennsylvania. And when the enslaved were emancipated in the early 1800s, they often settled among the mountain ranges in free-form communities separate from white settlers. One such community was the Second Kingdom, or the Kingdom of the Happy Land in western North Carolina. See, we always wanted to live separated. Separated and segregation are two different things. Separate is like, look, it's too much hostility between us, and it's best that we separate. Segregation is you stay you know what segregation is. It's a big difference. That's what hateful people want, segregation. Black folks just wanted to live in peace. That's the shit. That's just it. It's too hard for people to understand that. You notice that since, the federal thing that Trump did, which is, oh my God. And black folks used to see that as Trump setting you free. Just setting you free. But ever since then, the more people, the ones who are talking about it like they have an issue with it, are white folks. So it's like, you guys been on us all this time, but it's been made to seem like, we can't exist without you. We need to have the opportunity to bond together in a way that we never had that opportunity. Because remember, they used to have whole laws against us from congregating together in the group. We're the only group on this earth that they had laws against us coming together in public. Couldn't be no more than 3 black folks. Any more than 3 black folks, they would try to arrest you. That's sick. So now we need to have the opportunity to come together without them trying to molest us. Just let us heal. Let's continue. In the hysteria of violence following the Civil War, see, that's why we need to heal. Newly freed black people often traveled north from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina in search of a peaceful paradise among the mountain ranges. They made their way toward what is modern-day Tuxedo, North Carolina, to form the Kingdom of the Happy Land. Jesus Christ. Can you had to have been in that space to want to be somewhere separated and name it Happy Land. In the years following, the community grew rapidly, housing between 200 to 400 people who were governed by a monarchy and an independent treasurer. The community grew its own food and made money selling medical treatments to nearby towns. That money was then saved to purchase the land they settled on and protect them from turning to sharecropping. Many of the members of the Cherokee Nation who had been displaced due to colonial settlement and Indian Removal Act also found refuge in the Second Kingdom, contributing to the culture of the settlement and traditional practices used to form the land. Near the start of the 18th century, development threatened the prosperity of the community, and residents began moving away to neighboring towns. By 1900, very few residents remained, and the stories of this land were lost to the remaining residents and the mountains of Appalachia. As these narratives of prosperous black settlements were fragmented through time, the Appalachian experience became a narrative of pristine wilderness. In 1926, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park was established, and Shenandoah National Park followed in 1935. And the roads, paths, and famous structures like Kleeman's Dome, the highest point of the Smoky Mountains, were built with the underpaid labor of black Americans. The region also became a centerpiece in President Lyndon Johnson's 1964 War on Poverty, with a more specific focus on water, electricity, and wealth access for Appalachia's white populations. Appalachia was and continues to be known for its white working class, coal miners, and loggers who paint a picture of hard work and living off the land. That long-standing narrative whitewashed the diversity of the region and often left black and brown voices and their needs out of critical infrastructure development and welfare. And that's why we need our own infrastructure. You guys can paint whatever pictures about history you want. At this point, it's like we're done. We're not going to keep trying to teach people about the truth if they don't want to know the truth. But then when you need help, you forget about how demeaning and how demeaning you guys were and how flippant you were about, the things we shared in truth. Trying to help you out so you won't go around sounding like a parrot and foolish. Let's go on. In North Carolina's Appalachian Range, enslaved Africans spent their lives on small farms in the fertile mountain valleys of the region, introducing melons, okra, peanuts, yams, and medical herbs to the landscape. People like Mary Rice Farris from the mountains of Kentucky refused to take that discrimination lying down. A farm worker, maid, and sales lady by day, Farris grew her political power by serving a variety of roles at the First Baptist Church of the city of Brea and as vice president of Church Women of Madison County. Farris grew her political prominence in Madison County as an area coordinator for the Republican Party of Madison and went toe-to-toe with white Kentucky politicians. In a 1967 application for a position with the War on Poverty program, Farris wrote, "All my life, I've done political and community work. The people have been deprived of what they should have received, and I would like to see that something is done for them." The following year, Farris went head-to-head with Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Congressman Carl Perkins when they visited Eastern Kentucky on Kennedy's 8-stop tour of the region. Farris arrived at a school building in Vortex, Kentucky, where the tour was speaking with local Appalachians and entered a room full of poor white Appalachians to tell the story of Appalachia, of Black Appalachia. Why are we spending $7 million a day in Vietnam plus loss of life when there are millions of people in our area hungry without homes and decent housing or without clothing, she said. And we would like also to know why the Negro is having to fight for a decent place in society as a rightful citizen. Still fighting for it today. Why we as American Negroes are having to fight and speak out for a right to take decent responsibility in this great nation. Farris left Kennedy and Perkins stumbling with empty sentiments and continued to spend the rest of her life pushing for equal access to public services, education, and resources for Appalachia's Black residents. And I'm tired of fighting for it. And I'm not saying I'm tired of fighting for it like giving up. You know what? Something going to happen. I'm not even going to speak on it, but watch what's going to happen. It's going to happen right before their eyes, right before everybody's eyes. And don't be shocked when it happens, because y'all been having over 400 years of warnings right in your face. Let's go on. Whether in the Western Rockies or the Appalachian Mountains, Black narratives have been left out of discussions of wilderness conservation and mountainous living. These stories have not only been erased with regard to the prosperity and beauty of these landscapes, but the struggles, poverty, and hardship of life among the mountains has excluded Black lives and experiences by painting the experience as an act of white resilience. I think last year was the last year that we was going to spend trying to educate you people. And no, I didn't. When I said you people, I wasn't trying to sound like racist who, when they say you people, I'm saying it's over. We're done. We're trying to, do these videos and be on social media trying to correct things that were said about us ignorantly or intentionally that were wrong. Whatever. Why I'm going to try to convince the people who don't, who show so little respect towards me. And now that everything is unfolding, now that, Hispanics are seeing that they really weren't, cool with you either. We kept trying to tell you that. And now that, white women see that, you guys were the majority of the DEI and you thought that they held you guys on a pedestal. Now you're seeing that you're not. Now it's like, can we join together? Y'all sound like, what you sound like to me? You sound like people who were pretending to be a friend, and the person that you tried to befriend always knew you were fake and didn't like them. And then other people would come back and tell them how you really felt about them. But then even after you get exposed and everything that, you tried to pretend to be, we know for a fact you never were like that. You were never friends with us, but you still trying to come back in our face and act like it was something cool between us. That's how you come off. Like, it was never cool between us. So why are you trying to pretend like we have fun memories? Like we have fun memories with each other. We don't. Today we reflect on the pure power and majesty of these mountain ranges of Appalachia as something intricately bound to Black resilience, Black freedom, and Black community. We see this in stories like that of Miss Sheila and her son, John Paul Castells, who built a life for themselves in the rural corners of the Appalachian wilderness. Resilience and force like that of Mary Rice Farris. All three of them took their well-being into their own hands, matching the strength and inherent diversity of the mountain ranges themselves. That's one of the things that I enjoy about doing these videos, because I always seem to find something I never knew. And unfortunately, people who look like me, who are called Black Americans, are still discovering things that happen in our history that we never heard of. And then you have people on the other side talking about, why they don't let it go? Why did this? Why you care? If you don't believe it and you don't care about it, why do you care that we're talking about it? Why do you find yourself looking at videos where we're talking about our history and then feel the need to come in and leave derogatory comments? Why? If you're not interested in it and you're tired of hearing about it, why do you make yourself known? Why do you make your presence known? If I was tired of hearing about something, it's just logical thinking. Or are you telling me you don't have logic? If I'm tired of hearing something, I just avoid it altogether. There are videos and topics discussed on these internets all the time. If I'm not interested, I keep it moving. Why don't you guys have that logical thinking? Why do you have to make yourself known in our comments when you don't like something? Why do you think you're that important to us to write comments telling us what you don't like or what you think? You're not important. And then it's comments like you that will make us want to turn off our comments. But I think that would be unfair to the ones who want to have an intellectual discussion, whether it's with the content creator or with other like mine. So why would I do that? Because of you. All right, folks, I hope this information was valuable to you as it was to me when I discovered it. I enjoy everything nature. And so to know that my people built communities, strong, prosperous communities in Appalachia, it's beautiful to know that. Thank you guys for your time and attention. Appreciate you guys. We'll definitely see you again in the next video. Take care.